Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to episode 239B of Tales with TR. Let's get right at it. Today's guest, longtime NHLer, of course, Memorial Cup champ with the Red Deer Rebels, one of my good friends, and of course, Spittin' Chiclet and Game Note, Colby Armstrong. Colby, how the hell are you doing today?
TR, awesome to be with you, buddy. Feel like I haven't seen you in a while since Lundo Chiclets Cup. I always that's for me now, since I've been doing it. You've been doing it a long time. Like, you are Chiclets Cup. But for me to be there and see all you guys, of course, I do the roller hockey, so I'm not in the mix as much with you guys, and I don't usually get to see you guys until the last game, where I come over and my eyes pop out of my head and I go, thank God I'm playing roller, watching you guys play. And the compete level out there is just incredible. But love seeing you, love talking to you, love your work, love being around you.
Thanks, buddy. Yeah, it's getting intense at those, because when I started that first year we were in it, you could pretty much, unless something crazy happened, you knew No Space's team and my team would be in the final. But since it's really picked up with all these guys that play world ball hockey, like the Canadian Nationals had all four teams remaining this time. Like, I look at it going, I said Biz a couple of years ago, so this is going to get really intense, because it's just, we go through it. That ends, or usually in August. So this year it was right before. We have like a national and a world championship and all that. And it's 70% overlap. Yeah. There's a lot of guys there. So, and it's with a smaller, and we all run hard. But really, in ball hockey, not that you asked, but in ball hockey, it's
5 on 5 in a big rink.
Yeah. And once you gain the blue line, you can bring it back to the red line. So it
opens up the ozone way bigger. Right? So you're in a small area game in the Chiclets Cup. It's like, it's insane.
Well, it's insane. Yeah, it is. And we just didn't. And I said this to the other guys we played. I mean, the team that knocked us out. Yeah, I mean, I won a world championship with a few of those guys 2 years ago in Buffalo, a Masters over 31. So, but it wasn't just Masters guys. They also had a lot of guys on the regular team. There's a couple of junior guys there. But we were wondering how that intensity would go, because we knew that it would be quick ball hockey, but with all that offensive zone, you don't really, like, you're allowed to rub guys out on the boards. There's no open ice, but
it really in Europe. It's like Euro. It's like playing in Europe. Yeah, you have way more room.
Honestly, I've said that before. That's what all the guys say that have played over. I mean, half our team played in Europe. So like, that's what they really notice. So for us, because you just don't normally get a chance to finish as much, let alone like 2 or 3 in one shift. So it's really intense, and we love it. It's a different brand, but
I'll say this too, TR. I'll say this too. Coming over and watching the final, and you guys were knocked out of the final. So it was
with semi, but it was a really, really tight game.
And also the final too was really, really intense. But I came over there, and there's like, how the other teams are around watching, and like, you would know all these guys, but I was standing there watching, and it was just really intense. Every shot was everything, and like, you can bomb away from anywhere on those little on the little rinks they have. But like, I was standing next to a couple guys who are like, oh, that's Jimmy O'Houlihan over there. He's number 1 player in Canada. I'm like, really? That little guy? Oh yeah, he's unbelievable. Okay, yeah. Oh, see that guy right there? That guy's won like 4 national championships. He's one of the best. All these guys with little ball hockey chubbers standing around the boards watching with music just bumping. It was electric. So it was cool. Like, it's like when you go on vacation and you're by yourself, or if you get to go on vacation with a local that that can really show you around and really give you the in-depth look. That's what I got when I was standing around the little rink at the finals. It was like I was standing with all these professionals, and I didn't even know it. They're standing there with their shirts off. They got like, some guys got bad bodies, and they're like professional ball hockey legends. Yeah. But these guys are amazing.
That's funny. You know what else I notice when I'm in Ontario and I go to a place like London that's a junior town, and I look all around? I'm reminded how crazy you and I had travel in the Western Hockey League. Like, how about those days on the bus in the Western League? It's one thing I don't talk about enough. The young kids, coming out of here normally go to the queue, and not that there's not travel in Canadian junior hockey everywhere. I think in Ontario, maybe if you were in some like Oshawa or Central, that would be. But in the West, I mean,
Yeah.
frequently, Colby, frequently within your division going 5 and 6 hours.
Yeah.
In Tri, we went to Brandon 33 hours, and we only went there once now and hit on the way back. All the teams in the East got out of school for like 3.5 weeks. Like it's tough grind in junior in the Western League.
Oh
hey?
yeah, and then you pull in at 6 a.m. and expected to go to school the next day for the old 8:30 bell. Yeah, how many guys made it to that? But yeah, it is grueling, and especially I would say in your day, into my day. I don't think it is what it is now with the demand of physicality in the game. I know it's hockey's hockey, and the West still I think brings it pretty good comparatively to the rest of the Canadian junior leagues. But I to play the way the game was then, and the fighting and the physicality, which was more so constantly wrestling and wrangled with somebody, and jump on that bus and hit the bone rattler across to play your next game the next day, show up and stop the bus a kilometer away from the rink. All right, boys, get out and walk, because that was our warm-up to get the bus legs out. You walk up to the rink, then unpack all your stuff. And yeah, we were packing and unpacking everything also on top of it, which is crazy. But it's a whole different ball game comparatively to the other leagues. And that's why, like, I got my kid, he's 14 right now, TR, and he's all like, he's all loving the Western League. And I'm like, are you loving it because I played there, or are you loving it? And he's like, well, he's talking about like the hockey and what he thinks. Got my dad. He's got my dad in his ear too. My dad scouts for the Moose Jaw Warriors. So he's highly interested in the Western Hockey League right now. And I'm like, wait till you get on that bone rattler. Wait till you start trucking across country to play one game. Like we used to have home and homes with the Kootenay Ice when they were in the league. That's a 6-hour bus ride through the mountains, back into Red Deer. And so it was, we'd be racing buses back from place to place to play each other. And, it was whoever could get in earlier, get a few more hours of sleep. One guy in each bed in a little cot with 3 guys in a room. Usually, like, that's the way it was. It was awesome.
Crazy, man. I got a thing there. I was talking with Jason Strudwick.
Yeah.
I'm on the I co-host Jason Gregor's show out in Edmonton on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Struds often comes on. And we were talking, and we got back, and I looked at, we played them in a series. We went 6, and game 5 was in Kamloops, and 6 was in Tri, Friday, Saturday. It's a 12-hour, 13-hour bus ride.
You want to know? Yeah, that's insane.
We must have just gotten onto the bus, driven home, and just gotten off and gone to the rink. I mean, back then it would be half normal, but Jesus.
We did that with Brandon and Red Deer in the playoffs.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a long way.
That's a haul. And I remember they changed it too for the final, because we were playing Portland in the final the year we won, where we did like, what was it, like 3-2-1 kind of series. So you play 3 games, 2 games, 1 game. But that was the first time I ever took an airplane. First time in my life I ever took an airplane. We got a flight out to Portland and home, which was crazy.
Really?
It was unreal. Yeah. Can you imagine busting that? That would have been brutal. So maybe that saved us.
It's funny. Yeah. We did it once against Kamloops. Of course, they beat us 3 Mem Cups in 5 years. But that's the only time I was ever on a flight in the Western League. Bob Brown. And it was a sponsor that, whatever it was it was I'm not taking for granted that they did that for us, but it was only one time. Speaking of that, I never asked you about this. So for those that don't know that are listening, Colby, I played in Red Deer right before Colby came in, right after me, and was like a young prospect, yourself, Mapletoft, a bunch more, that ended up actually winning the Moyle Cup. Like, so I left, but I remember you guys won. It was very much, we felt part of it, because we pushed Red Deer further than they'd ever gone, and I think people started taking us seriously. And I'll never forget it. I watched on TV, you guys won it, and I got a phone call, like 3 or 4. So they must have been still, it was 3-4 years after we were there. And I immediately when you guys won it. So they still felt us, and we were all watching it together. But who did you play in the final in the Western League? I guess Portland. Who did they have?
Oh, gosh. I'm trying to think of who they had.
Was that when Hossa was there?
They might have had Paul Gostad, who was a player for them. I believe he was there. I'm trying to rack my brain. They might have had Hossa's brother at the time. And they had a few smaller players. They had a few smaller, like really good players, like feisty little guys that could like wheel and deal. They were just a good team. They were just a good team out west. They always are kind of good, but and your teams prior to that, like with the first round picks and kind of the noise of talent And I remember I tell this to you all the time when I got drafted. I had that draft tape that they sent with all your guys' highlight reels that year. Cause I forget when I was drafted in the Western League, like 98 or 90, something like that, like 97. Maybe it was 97.
It was 97. And 96, 97, I was there. We made that tape. Yeah.
That's the tape I had. It was unbelievable. Like Tragically Hip tunes on it, AC/DC on it, and just unreal games, unreal goals, like talented, awesome highlight reel goals. And then like fights, like just awesome fights. And then like first round Brown, like on tape going, I got to tone it down. I got to tone down the fighting. I maybe tone it down like 10 fights, coming up.
Yeah. Remember he said that right on there. Tone it down 10 fights or so. Oh God.
A big deal. Yeah. It was like one of those, I must have ran through that tape a bazillion times just wanting to play there. That was like huge inspiration for me wanting to play in the Western League, getting that tape and then seeing you guys. I thought you guys were like the NHL, you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, we had like 5 first rounders, then a couple of guys who would end up, and outside, I don't know where Stephen Pete went, God rest his soul. But Stevie was like just anomalies, like tough up there in the conversation for toughest fighter in the league at 16.
Yeah.
Devin Francon, another 16-year-old we had. Our 2 16-year-olds would fight you and limb you, man. Like,
Frankie's on our Memorial Cup team too. So that's
he was there 4 years later. I know. I still talk to Frankie here and there.
Yeah, he's the best.
Look at that, Marcel Hossa. I don't know why it was in my head, man. It was your league at the time. I'm looking now. Marcel Hossa had 90 points. He was underrated for sure. Jesse Ferguson. Another guy way underrated, with a great passer. Sean Rode, Garrett Prasovsky. I played with Garrett in Cincy.
Yeah.
I can tell these are a bunch of good two-way players.
Yeah, that's what the Western League is too. Like the Western League, like I think right now, if you're a scout and you're looking at prospects and like, there's skill all over the place in the CHL, no question. But I just think, you talk about two-way players like that. Isn't that such an expectation of that league?
Yeah.
Like every team in that league, you're expected to play a certain way. It's like Western Hockey League style. And as much as it's switched to like being, skill over will, if you will, with hockey nowadays, I think there's still that demand and expectation in the West and so I think the Western League has a standard of play that is, I think, admired or coveted with scouts in finding talent. Because if you're talented and you can play there and you can, withstand the rigors of that league and this playing style, it's pretty pro-like. And I think it always will be.
Well, if you were a GM right now, I don't know, and Danny Briere, I think Danny's a year younger than me, so around our age, right? Like, you're 5 years younger. So if you knew that there were 2 players that were out there that were pretty even, but you knew one of them lasted I don't mean just play a few games in the Western League. I mean that played till they were 19, 16 to 19 or 17 to 20, whatever in the Western League. And I mean, I'm counting the bus travel because I know that's not part of the NHL busing, but it does make for a lot of character. And if you can put up with that, there are all kinds of levels of adversity that it's just proving that you can deal with adversity and still play. And because of that two-way emphasis, I find it's just a little bit rougher. So you're probably a little bit more bruised up. You're playing through an injury more often than not. I could be biased because I played there, but that was the mantra when I played, and I think it still is. Of the leagues out there, I mean, I know we lost that little bit of grit and character and two-way, whatever you want to say the essence of hockey was. I feel we're still we're grasping at it, and it's out there, but it's more prevalent in the Western League, I think, than anywhere.
Yeah, the Canadian way, right? The way we always grew up in it's like a mentality almost, if I guess you could say. And I agree. And for example, like Owen Pickering, he's a kid that plays on Pittsburgh. He's from Manitoba, played in Swift Current for the last number of years, first round pick for the Penguins, just cracked the team this year, spent last year and this year. This was his first year. Went down in Wilkes-Barre for a little bit, but has now been called up and playing really well. But like his personality, his character, like every team you've been on, I know every team, and I'm biased. I'm from Saskatchewan, so I say this and I'm proud of it. But every team, like the Western guys, and TR, maybe that's why you fit in so well. I feel like out east and out west, very similar in style and personality and the way they talk to people and the way they get along with everyone. Like it's just the way it is. And I think they're important guys to have kicking around, regardless of if they're on your top line, if they're in your lineup. And I see that here with Pickering. He's a young kid, but he's just like, he's got that little pep and that little like Western kind of vibe to him where he just kind of slides in there. Everyone can poke fun at him a little bit here and there, but he gets along with everyone so well and he laughs it off. And it's just like the boys. And that's like the Western League, man. You just roll with it, man.
It really is. And Newfoundlanders, I think, really identify. If you'll notice, there's a lot of Newfoundlanders in Alberta. Now, I know that a lot of them are chasing new jobs, but there's a lot of jobs in Toronto.
Yep.
I love Toronto. I spent almost half the year there at this point, but or in Ontario, and a lot of that in Toronto. But there is, I think, for a lot of Newfoundlanders, a bit of a disconnect. They feel a bit lost. But out west, they're out in Fort Mac and Red Deer, and I mean, they're not just chasing the oil jobs. They're taking the jobs because they feel comfortable in those communities doing that kind of work. And we got the same kind of work over here. It's a really similar attitude. It's the same thing. We strap on our skates. I see it in the kids here. I think the Quebec League got a lot better in the 2000s onward to now because they added all those Atlantic teams, and now you don't have a choice, right? So they added that little bit of grit that comes with an Atlantic Canadian, that I think the Western League is abundant in. Listen, 08-09, you got 22 goals in the show. Who are your line mates?
Rich Peverly and Slava Kozlov, if you remember him, the old Russian.
I do remember Kozlov.
He's unbelievably brilliant player. Playing with him, played at a different pace, not super fast, but wickedly smart. And thought the game like totally different. Like today, he couldn't. I don't know. He's smart enough and good enough he could play today. He would be wildly frustrated with the game today, with the way that he, give and go passes and playing in tight spaces and pulling a guy to you. And I guess he'd be kind of like the same kind of thinking in today's game as like a Mitch Marner type of thing, and how he kind of shapes everybody out on the ice. So I wasn't like super fast, obviously. So to play with him and think the game with him in getting by guys by using our brains like that, I think was a lot of fun. He was very demanding. Like he wanted to perform, he wanted to produce, he wanted the plays to be executed correctly, old time Russian style, like and like barking at guys in the room, like give and go, let's go, wake up. Didn't have too much to say otherwise. Like always, rather grumpy, but awesomely smart player to play with. Yeah, he's like really old-timey Russian beauty, sick player, smart. And then we got Peverly. He was like a journeyman guy with Nashville. He was in the East Coast League. He had been called up to the A, then he made the show, then sent back down. And we actually got him off waivers. We picked him up off waivers in his first game.
Really?
I think he had 5 points. He had 5 points in his first game. It's just
really
this guy was playing in the East Coast League this year. What the?
I remember him. He was a pretty good player at St. Lawrence. Not that I follow college that much, but I had friends going there at the time. I know that he played there, and he must have done quite well if he made the NHL. But
he won the cup. He got traded for Blake Wheeler and won the cup in Boston that year when they won. So ended up I mean, great story. Great guy, and now he's like I think a head of scouting or player personnel or something for Dallas Stars. Just ran into him in New Jersey a little while ago before Christmas, but those two guys, I was playing with those guys. So a mix of a little bit of everything with the three of us, I think made a pretty good line.
A few years later in your career, you're in Montreal. I'm assuming, I'm not looking at, I think Max Pacioretty had played there his first 10 years, right? So Max was there. Now, I don't know Max Pacioretty at all. But I'm watching these games now, and I'm saying to myself, I don't know. People go, whether, people often say, well, grit's either in you or it's not. I don't know. This guy just, to me, has made a metamorphosis of his career. He's not, the guy had 40 goals, didn't he? Like,
he can shoot.
He's out running everybody. I'm loving this as a hockey fan, as I was never a huge Pacioretty fan. My question was going to be, did he run around back then? I don't really remember it. He's finishing hits, Colby. He's can see he wants to be in the league. He's the best hits of the year, man. You could make a highlight tape. I can't believe I'm saying these words. He must have some character to him. No wonder now I'm starting to see captain. I'm going, no wonder. Like, this guy will do whatever you need him to do. I didn't see this because he was so talented the first part of his career. But you must have, been teammates with him and seen it firsthand.
Like, what I'm seeing with him, though, is blowing my mind, too, in regards to him being physical. Like, I'm like, holy God, because he's 6'3", 6'2", probably 215, like, solid. Like, he's built. Like, he's a big, thick dude. skates like a deer, like just flies up the, like he's powerful, strong. His shot,
Yeah.
you ever had played with guys with their shot that's like it makes a sound? It's like
Oh yeah.
he
Michael
has that.
Riley.
Like I'd stand in the corner and go, "Oh geez, that is crazy." Rides was
It's
on
a
our team
missile.
too in Montreal at that time.
Oh yes, yeah, he was. Oh god,
He's a
yeah.
beauty. He's a
I
beauty.
skate with him here.
Yeah,
Rides
tell
his
him I said
backyard
hi. I
most of the
love him.
time, and
I
it's
love
still
him.
that. It's still that. He slows it down for some of the goalies, man. It's wild.
Oh, he can rip it, but Pacioretty can rip it, but not like super physical for like his size. And I always thought at the time, I was like, man, he could like, he's already a horse. Like you can't stop him when he gets going. He was massive. And I think he played with David Desharnais and Eric Cole on that top line. Cole's a big horse too. He can get galloping as well.
Player.
Yeah, but to see what Patch is like, he got hurt. His first game back was against Pittsburgh here in Pittsburgh. I was doing the game, and him and Letang were mixed up, and he was hitting guys, and he took like 2 penalties because he was just like over aggressive. And I was like, whoa, what got into this guy? He must hate Chris Letang right now. But then now he's stacking games together, and he's just trucking guys left and right. I'm like, who the hell is this guy?
I know.
He's super pissed off about something, but it's been awesome to see because I think he's down in the lineup a little bit, so he's changed his game, and it's a great example for anyone out there. Like, hey, I think he's had some injury troubles, right? TR, he wants to stay in the league, he wants to stay in this lineup that's highly skilled, and so if you're playing with guys that are really, really skilled in that top 6, and you want to be in the lineup, you have to do a little bit more. And sure, he was challenged by Berube, and he's come out and he's provided this. He's an animal now. He's an absolute animal and found a way to find a role on this team in this lineup. And, good for him.
Yeah, I think it's a great example for any young kid. I always say young kid because that's the best. That's the people that are going to make the most out of it, that are going to mold a career. But really for anybody, you know what? For NBA players, here you go, guys, load management. Here's a guy that's out there eating the boards that it doesn't have a history of it. I could point that out in Matt Rempe or someone like that, and you'd go, well, of course, he got to the league that way. I don't know why that popped into my head. Anybody that skates around, and I don't know, a guy back in the day that did both, Mike Fisher there. I used to like his effort, both sides of the puck. And if he wanted to amp it up a little bit, I could see. But Pacioretty to me went from like a 2 to a 9 in this level of physicality. So it's great to see. And by the way, I mean, have you noticed that in the NBA? People were talking about it in the NFL, but the NFL was the last game of the year. I can see sitting guys out. As a general rule, I don't see a lot of guys in the NFL taking games off because of load management. I mean, Mahomes is playing with a high ankle sprain, and he's going for his 3rd Super Bowl. He doesn't really need to play. Like, there's a level of want. Now, do you have any theory as to why this is, and it happens in baseball too? Guy will be throwing a no-hitter but he's at the 80 pitch mark and they take him out in the 7th.
Yeah.
Do you have any theory on? I mean, I don't know why I'm asking you about other sports, but you watch them all and you're a football fan.
I don't get it. Like, I don't get it. I love football, highly physical sport too, right? And like every week they, bandage these guys up and prepare them to be able to get through the week to play the next game. And that's the way they roll. So I can see at the end of the year when you're in a position, you can go, okay, we can, sit some of these guys. Basketball though, like the only thing I can think of is like, why would you load manage? And they play the same amount of games as hockey. It's not a physical sport, and I'll get in trouble for this because basketball people go, oh no, you ever been in the paint? Like it's like a battle down there. Like, get out of here.
It's gonna be,
it's gonna. You got a guy leaning on you and you're backing into him. Okay, I get it, but I the only thing I can think of is like running. But like, you play ball hockey, you run, like it's brutal on your knees and your back and like up and down, and that amount of running is hard on the body, I think. So that's the only way I can think. I think.
But look at guys in tennis. I'm going to shout out to Denis Shapovalov. Just invited a bunch of us. He's a Shoresy fan. We're going to see him in the Davis Cup in February. So those guys are back and forth and back and forth. And
you just debunked me. You just debunked.
Well,
what I thought.
Here's why though, Colby. I don't mean to debunk you because I think there's definitely truth in what you're saying. It would probably rip you if you have. Put it this way. I totally empathize with Kevin Durant a few years ago with that Achilles. Like if you've got that, you got to run around. That must be hard. And I'm not counting that. I'm talking about guys proactively taking games off in case it's too much for them. Like Kawhi Leonard made it famous when the Raptors won. Now, here's what I think, and I could be wrong on this, but the only thing that stands out to me that would at least take care of some of it, I think some of it, is that in the NBA, for example, say you want to win the scoring. I believe it's an average amount of points per game, right? I don't have to actually get the most points. I can play. I think there's a minimum. I could be talking out my ass, but I believe there's a minimum of like 55 games you got to play. So there's what, 80 or 80? It's close to hockey in a season. So if you can take 25 games off and still be the leading scorer, was that in hockey? It's very cut and dry. Matthews last year, you want to play? Well, you want your 70th? Here it is. You want to win the scoring, you got to play all the games. Too bad. I know you might have played 10 less games or 40 less games and nearly won it. You could be an anomaly. You could be by far the best scorer. But sorry about that. This year, Connor, Leon played more games than you did, and he got more goals because of it. But in basketball, it's all averaged out, isn't it?
I have no clue. Honestly, I've watched, I think, one basketball game or two. That was when the Raptors won. I started watching in the final. So I am completely out of the loop on anything.
And that's the reason. That's the reason I don't watch much. They won it. I got on board for that. And, I go on the Gregor show. So some people want to talk about basketball. But I find that of the four major sports, I'm so disinterested because of that. And, just to elaborate on it, I took, a few years ago, Penny Lane up to Toronto. I wanted to see, Raptors didn't mean much to her. I think we went to the zoo and a few other things. I wanted to go see. It was the year Kawhi Leonard was there. And, they ended up winning. I go to see a game and he's not playing. Like, that's the other thing. But that's the other thing. If you're telling me that the only thing matters is winning the whole thing, I know as a player it is. But if that's the only thing, then there's going to be 31 unhappy teams every year in every sport, right? There's other things. Part of it is that I want to see the best players on my team that I came to watch. And if they're not playing, then what are we doing here?
That's basketball, right? Like it's a superstar driven league.
Yeah.
And it's a superstar, so it's crazy that the big boys aren't playing when it's a majorly. That's like how they sell their product. Like we get criticized in hockey for not selling our superstars enough. That's all they do. That's their whole thing.
Yes.
And then you show up and the guy's not there.
I could, imagine like flying down to San Antonio or something, like, taking money to go and you're looking at the injury report. Okay. And then, sorry, why is Wembanyama not playing? He just wants to take a couple of games off just in case he gets hurt. But that's a bad example because he plays them all. But you know what I mean? I just find it. And you know what? If there's so many people that have to do it, then look at the sport and shorten the games, because at some point, like, either the players are being wusses or the people that run the league are having too many games. And that didn't seem to be a problem for Michael Jordan or Charles Barkley.
I know. And it wasn't I found it was more of a topic a few years ago, and now it's kind of fizzled out to like, it's just the way it is now. But I heard a thing in hockey too with certain players, like, and this is probably correct for all the players because the load is heavy. You play hard, like, you're playing, the way hockey is demanding, and guys don't miss games. But like, the reality is, you're going to get 50 sick games from player X. Yeah. Another, 10, he'll be okay. The rest, it's like he's floating, like he's not going to be there. But those 50, he'll be on fire. He'll be a superstar. But at least he's in the goddamn lineup.
You could write a fucking thesis on that. You could really dive into that. There's a lot of truth in everything you just said. 05-06, you come into the league. Now, it's one thing to have Crosby there, okay? But there's some legends here. Recchi, Leclerc, Gonchar, Odeline. Was Odeline there in your half? He was the first. Took me right under his wing. My first game, I fought. And the next game, he came to me and he said, "Don't ever wear." I had wore my snakeskin boots and this tip-top suit, and he said, "Don't ever wear that again. I can understand it's all good, but leave the snakeskins at home." And he bought me a new pair of Boss shoes and a suit.
Oh, what a
Great guy.
stud.
Didn't know him
Yeah.
from Adam. But
Oh,
anyway,
yeah.
you're walking in. You must have been pretty nervous in that dressing room.
Well, TR, I was
3 years too. Not
Yeah.
like 18. You just like 3 years in the minors. So you've got in your head, I really want to get up, and the nerves have time to build.
Yeah, it's a first round pick too, and it's like, okay, when's the time? Am I running out of time? Like, what's happening?
Yeah.
When am I good? Like, what's going on here? And then I walk in there, and I grew up a Habs fan, so John LeClair, Mark Recchi, Lyle Odeline, all those names was like, I was like, oh my god, like this is unreal. Now I golf with Rex all the time. He lives here in Pittsburgh. It's awesome. I get to hang out with the Wrecking Ball all the time, Hall of Famer.
Awesome.
And Johnny LeClair works with my brother in Philly. See him every once in a while too, so pretty good. I think Odeline lives in Pittsburgh too. I haven't seen him though. I haven't seen him at all. I heard he golfs at this one golf club here. I got to run into him one day again. But walking into that room and seeing those guys and Sergei Gonchar and Daryl Sador too was another guy that was there. Pretty.
Didn't realize that.
Pretty awesome crew of veteran guys that we had around us, and eventually we got Gary Roberts. He came over too. We picked him up, and he was in the room.
Good Lord!
Oh yeah, Scary Gary. We had him. So that's up my wheelhouse of growing up watching hockey. Like those were the guys, in the NHL at the time that were like you were just collecting hockey cards and see those guys. Now I'm sitting in the dressing room with them, or going for a steak dinner, or having a glass of wine. I was like, whoa, this is amazing.
They were awesome. That whole group. They were always
awesome.
Rex would say to me, because I'd be nervous, man, young. I mean, I just really, really, really nervous. That 96, 97 year, I didn't get to Red Deer till February. I was up in Montreal till then, and they just wanted me to practice with the team. And I was like, I find it hard to grab my stick. Like you said to Reggie, Reggie Houle, I'm like, I'm nervous around these guys. But Rex, what up? Rex made me feel great, and a few more, but he would always be like, look, you don't have to come out.
Isn't it crazy, like looking at Rex? Like he is not big at all. Like he's a stout guy, no question. But like for him to break in when he did too, and be the player that he was, because he's physical, but he's not like Rammy. But like he was just probably the most consistent guy every single year. Like his point production is like guaranteed. Like he's unbelievable.
I like the wrecking ball. He seems like, because he doesn't run around throwing, but he's really solid. And like he was hard to take the puck from in the corner and stuff. He was like a little wrecking ball. Little, I mean, you know what I'm saying, for guys he was challenging that were 6'5".
Oh,
yeah, but Rex, you know what? Do they do this anymore? Like, because Rex would be like, you got to come out. The only reason I wouldn't, I was a guy that liked to go out, and especially in the minors, but I would feel a bit nervous. And he's like, just come out, have some beers and a steak. Like they were big on that steak. Wherever we were, Pittsburgh, we'd go to Moritz, is it? And we'd go and have, and it would all, and Odie was that obviously, and then some. And, but like, and I remember that really being a thing. Is that, and I know it's different now with video games and social media, but do captains try to make that happen a lot now? Like to me, it was every night we were out.
Sid had like a big Thanksgiving thing here. I think he has guys over at certain times of the year to get together. It's so different now because now they have chefs in the room, which I think is brutal. Like I remember my last few years, we had chefs in the room cooking us food and stuff too. And lunch would be prepared and sitting there. But like every once in a while we'd skip it and we'd leave and we'd go eat lunch somewhere together. Or like a few of us, like you just get sitting around the room and you're all together, but it's not the same as when you go to like for lunch somewhere with the boys, pick a spot, where are we going? That's the way it used to be. And, lunch turns to dinner, right? Have a couple lunch pops. All of a sudden you're still sitting there and it's dinner. But like, that was the best. That was the best. That was the best with those guys. And I think that's kind of,
they hold you to task. Odie would be like, if you're not in here first before practice, then we're not doing this again. You never were, because you do it. Right?
You come in the morning, Odie would already be off the bike and like done sweating and like ready to roll, like just like a professional. So yeah, the game's different in a lot of ways that way, where it's like you don't get that as much anymore, so you kind of have to manufacture it instead. And I think they somehow make it work. Like I think I'll just bring it back to the. I think the Pens of like, turn a corner one with their team play, but like camaraderie as a team, like they're looser, like vibes are higher. They haven't had results lately that they wanted, but like they're playing good hockey. And I think because they had time to do some of that stuff, whether it was over the holidays or some dinners here and there or getting guys together. And I think that means a lot. I think that is overlooked a lot of times because of the season and just being professional. But you got to get together with the boys. You got to have these moments. You got to break down the you know, the walls of just seeing a guy at your workspace, you know, like, hey, like coming into the cubicle. It's like, that's the only time you see this guy is at work. And then you expect to like mind melt and like be together and have this like, you know, camaraderie that's different. You have to have that when you're like brothers and you're together all the time. And it's like that. So I think that's important. And it is like, you have to manufacture it now in the NHL, I think, just because of the way the setups are.
Yeah, I know it. For people listening that are not of our era, I think they would all assume we weren't out getting gunned every night at the dance club.
Dinners,
it was just
and hangouts, like
dinners
in a
and
different, it's a different environment too. Like now you just hang out at the rink, you know? So
I
it's
hate
like,
that idea of the chef, by the way. That's to me. I went from like if I'm at the rink with you, I should stick up for you because I'm your teammate. But when I get to know you,
yeah,
now you know what? Now I'm giving it to you on an empty net. If you're in a, I got the puck and you're in a slump. I'm passing it. You know, little ways that or blocking a shot for a goalie with. It's 4-0 with a minute left. But you know what? I'm gonna block it. I want him to get a shutout. There's little ways that teams come together, and for me,
bonding. Yeah, it's like
half
bonding.
of that was bonding. Yeah. Well, bonding off the ice. How's game notes going, by the way?
We're great, man. We're great. We took last week off. I mean, over the holidays, we were in Chicago for the outdoor game, and with the whole Chicklets crew. Biz was doing TNT, of course. Had my whole family there, the wife and all 4 of my kids. My son was home. He's playing out in Rhode Island right now, so he's already in a dorm and living out there, bonding in Rhode Island, Woonsocket, Rhode Island.
Woonsocket, the home of Brian Boucher. I've been to
Boucher. There you go.
And Brian Berard. I've been there. I played with Boucher my first 3 years junior.
Yeah, and so that their pictures are all over the place, and they're all over the dorms, like full-size posters of those guys up on the walls everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, they got a great program there. It's awesome. So we sent him there this year. He's loving it. He was home for a little bit over the holidays, a good chunk of break, but after like day 4, he was like, I'm like, dude, what's up? I'm like, do you just want to go back to school or what with your buddies? He's like, yeah, kind of, you know, it's like when you got to go home from junior for a bit and you couldn't wait to get back there with the fellas, but he's feeling that. It's great. He's fitting good. The team's great. The guys are good. So he's experiencing that right now, but we had everyone in Chicago for that. Then I had to fly to Atlanta to do a data cast, they call it, which is more like of a stats look at that outdoor game. So I was in Chicago for the outdoor game, had to go to Atlanta to broadcast the outdoor game. And I know it was crazy. It was crazy. And then I met the Penguins on their road trip. They were in Florida and then to Raleigh and then home. They played a night against Columbus, massive game for both teams with the standings and where they're at right now. And then tomorrow morning, get up and fly to Atlanta again and do a little more TNT tomorrow night, doubleheader. So I'm on the go, buddy. I'm grinding. I always say I should have scored more goals, but maybe after all, I'm just a grinder.
You're a grinder, baby.
Buddy.
Hey, I love it. It keeps you busy in a good way. Do you got anything else to promote before we go?
Friday at 12 noon Eastern, game notes. Come check us out. Get in the chat. It's a live show. We'll post stuff at ArmDog on Instagram and on X. Other than that, love you, TR.
Sounds good. Love you too, buddy. Thanks very much, folks. That has been Colby Armstrong, one of my good friends. Check him out on Game Notes, Spittin' Chicklets, and then some. There it is, Colby Armstrong. Folks, if you're downtown St. John's and you want to have a good time, you want to check out the scene, you want to go to George Street, why would you not want to hang out at Trinity Pub or the Martini Bar? Or let's see, Rob Roy Confusion, of course. Why wouldn't you go to Greensleeves for a beer? And of course, the Bull and Barrel. You want some rock and roll in your life? Check out the Bull and Barrel. You want a bite to eat? You want a bite to eat? Check out the Loose Tie. Check out Blue on Water. And of course, Wedgwood Cafe. You want to work out? You want to change your mindset? You want strength and balance for the body and mind? Look no further than Ryan Power Conditioning. Strength, balance, body, mind. 2 locations of Mr. Lube here in St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador. One's on Torbay Road, one's on Kemrout Road. Live, laugh, love, and of course, True Hockey. Take what's yours. Thanks to Corey Gregory and the whole team at True Hockey. Love my True Hockey sticks. See you guys again soon. Be back with more Tales with TR just a few days.